Strengthening fiscal accountability and transparency at subnational level is our bottom of our discussion, talking about how to ensure fiscal accountability and transparency at the government level, that means state government level and local government level. And we have seated in the studio today a representative of the chairman of Fiscal Responsibility Commission in the person of Barrister Chukwuemeka Abana. A very good day to you, sir, and welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
I'm happy to be here.
All right, sir. Barrister Chukwuemeka is the Director of Legal Services at Fiscal Responsibility Commission. So he will be helping us to understand some of the issues around fiscal responsibility in Nigeria, particularly looking at the mandate given to Fiscal Responsibility Commission to carry out this mandate. What are the issues around it, and what they have done so far to strengthen subnational government in terms of how they borrow and how they spend their money they have borrowed and how they maintain their debt servicing level. So to start with, since late 2000, federal government have ensured that they put in place a fiscal regime that will allow for prudent and accountability in Nigeria. But we have always had issue with subnational government who go all the way to do some things that are not expected. So, Barrister,
Yes.
FRC, how has the journey been since 2007 that the commission was created?
Thank you very much. I think it's important at this inception of this discussion for us to give a very brief background to the enactment of the Fiscal Responsibility Act 2007. You will remember that around 2004-2005, the government of the day at that time commissioned a study by World Bank and IMF experts who came and did the detailed system study of the country, looked at our finance management structure and so on. And at the end of that exercise, they came up with certain recommendations, which included the enactment of 3 very important laws. Let me start with the Fiscal Responsibility Act. They also recommended the enactment of the Public Procurement Act and also for the Nigeria Extractive Industry Transparency Act, that NATI Act, because most of our foreign exchange comes from sales of crude oil and so on. So those 3 legislations were very, very key. And for the Fiscal Responsibility Act 2007, it was signed into law on July 30 by then President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, and a commission whose primary function or mandate is to monitor and enforce the provisions of that act was set up on the 8th of December 2008. Now, you can see that between 2008 and now, we've been a very reasonable period of time. And it's also important to understand that the main goal of that law, that is the Fiscal Responsibility Act 2007, is to provide for prudent management of our nation's resources. You see, without prudent management of anything, and if anything is allowed to go waste or go to waste, nothing can be achieved. And also to ensure long-term macroeconomic stability of the national economy. There's economic crisis everywhere. Every country is struggling to manage its own way. But this act was actually enacted to secure and improve transparency and accountability in the system. You understand? So that in the operation of our budget, our expenditure as a country, we must ensure that we begin to implement according to the medium-term fiscal framework, or if you like, medium-term expenditure framework that the law has now put into place. So some of those things that were the reforms that are started to, to be implemented at that time, were now put together into a statute, into a law, to help manage the national economy. You and I know that monetary policy, fiscal policy, exchange rate matters, issues of interest rate, they are all, even currency exchange rate and so on, they all affect the entire country. So we have one economy, you understand? So as the federal government is trying to have a proper handle with a rule-based fiscal responsibility framework in place through this act, it's important that all the states in the federation, even if we have a federal system of government, should follow suit. Because, like I told us, as I said earlier, it is one economy. So that is the background to this act. And part of the issues that this act has also come in to try to resolve for us, or to help us resolve, is the issue of wastage in the system. We talk about high cost of governance. Every year we do budgets. Now we're talking about our budget running to double figure trillions, you know. At the end of the day, you ask the ordinary man in the state, to what extent does it feel, you know, this expenditure? How does it affect their life positively? So you see, part of the rule that is contained, the rules that are contained in this act, is to enable the government to plan the expenditure properly. From the amount of money the government plans to raise through all the means, including taxation, including sale of crude and other means, and so on, how much does the government plan to spend? And this expenditure, where is it going? If it is infrastructure, the infrastructure that will benefit the people and all that. And so we talk about capital projects, you know, capital budget, expenditure, and then the current. Now, you and I know that over the years we have had this disproportionate level of both the current and the capital. And of course, because we are a developing country, we have a lot of infrastructure gap. The tendency is that we might spend more than we can actually generate.
No. Okay, I'm so sorry for cutting you in, but because we're already going to some of the questions, related answer you are bringing up. Now, in the last couple of years, I know FRC have done so well in terms of strengthening the subnational level. But one of the mandates of FRC is bringing out disseminated standard. How far have you been able to bring that to the level of ensuring that people, state, subnational government, understand the standard of FRC at their own level also? Okay.
You see, honestly, it would have been much better for everyone if this law was made to apply to all the states and local governments at the same time. Just like the EFCC Act and some other acts, the Freedom of Information Act and so on. It applies all over. So, but because of the kind of our system of government, the states are allowed to also set up their own fiscal responsibility laws in the various states. If you look at some of the sections in our act, it actually says that the states themselves can, enact their own laws with some kind of changes that will suit their own system, and that's allowed under the law. Except, of course, when it comes to borrowing, deficit, and indebtedness, which is a matter for the exclusive list in the Constitution. So what has happened over time is that we, as a commission, pursuant to Section 54 of the Fiscal Responsibility Act, that mandates the federal government to provide technical assistance to states and local governments that wish to replicate this law at their own level. We have offered this assistance. We have helped so many states to enact their own fiscal responsibility laws, even amend the ones that they have. What actually happened was that at the time after this law was passed, certain weaknesses were found to be inherent in the Fiscal Responsibility Act 2007. One of which, of course, or the basic one, is the fact that it didn't provide for punishment for certain infractions. Exactly. We
are coming to that.
No. What I want to say that the states, many of the states, which also passed their own laws at that time, replicated that problem. If they had come to us, or if we had been involved at that early stage, perhaps we would have given helped them to pass an improved version of what we had at the center.
Exactly.
But it's appeared that they all followed that route. So now that we're trying to amend the central law, many of them are also trying to do that. But some states actually have improved fiscal responsibility laws, if you ask me, because states like Taraba and quite a number of them, about 3 or 4 or 5 now, have considered and amended their laws and adding some sort of punishment that will make the public officers to really, not violate the law and to, do the right things.
Now talking about what mandate of FRC over the years and what they have been doing, which is quite laudable. I've seen some of your projects, some of your work, and recent time I saw the workshop that you people did. Is it late November or thereabout for strengthening subnational level? But what about the general public? How do you carry the general public along with some of your working in the country? Because one of the things that we want to achieve by ensuring that we talk about fiscal responsibility, because the budget debate is ongoing, and most times when people talk about the fallout of budget in Nigeria, they refer to the FRC Act, they refer to the working of FRC. So how have you been carrying the people along in this regard?
Yeah, carrying the people along is not just something that the FRC itself is doing. is something that the law mandates the FRC to do. If you look at the Act, Section 11, it has a provision that says that the minister, that's talking about Minister of Finance, in putting together the medium-term expenditure framework, must consult the public, must hold public consultations, giving citizen groups, individuals, the opportunity to air their view and to make informed contributions or input into the medium-term expenditure framework. Don't forget that MTF, after it is passed by the National Assembly, will be the basis for the budget. You understand? So what we do in the FRC, we have engaged with several civil society organizations over time, organized a lot of town hall meetings, seminars, programs to enlighten people both at the subnational level especially, and even at the federal level, to know the importance of some of the fiscal decisions that government is about to make. The law has also named some agencies that can make input into that process. Right now, as it is now, the FRC is not part of those agencies listed there. But we have the opportunity to make our own impression directly to the National Assembly when they consider this input. Also, Section 49 has also said, both in the passing of the MTF and the budget, the National Assembly must carry out public hearing to afford citizens the opportunity also to have a say in the process. And so, by and large, we have it's an ongoing process. We have several programs, some even funded through the National Assembly, to sensitize, the citizens. Now, let me give you a particular example of the importance of this citizen sensitization. Now, anytime it is reported in the press that the government is about to borrow, I think the last one was $2.2 billion dollars borrowing. You see so many commentators come on air to say, oh, government is borrowing too much. But the truth is that borrowing had already been approved in the previous year's MTF, and nobody mentioned it because they didn't understand. The government didn't just wake up to say, give us $2 billion. It had been put in the planned process. And the National Assembly, who passed the MTF, cannot go back now and say, we cannot approve the low borrowing. So the more citizens and citizen groups, NGOs, civil society organizations, help us, because we just want tiny commission. The country is so large. We need to collaborate with every other agencies and CSOs to make our people understand the way this process works and at what stage they can intervene or make their voices heard, so that government, I'm sure the government, this present government especially, is a listening government. Once there is some hue and cry about certain issues, government has the way of responding, one way or the other, right? Remember recently or last year or so, some time ago, about 2 years ago, when there was this international conference that so many people went with the federal government delegation was so large.
COP28.
COP28, yes. People said, no, it's a waste of money. It's imprudent. Our part of our work is prudence as well. People say it was imprudent for the government to have such a large delegation at public expense. And the government had, and now issued a policy statement thereafter saying they have limited the number that can accompany the president to certain international. So that is part of what we're talking about. The people, the public has a say. And again, under Section 51 of our Act, any Nigerian citizen has the power to go to approach a federal high court without having to show any special interest, to get the federal high court to issue prerogative orders, either to compel an official of government to act in accordance with this act or to restrain them from acting outside the provisions of this act. So that is another avenue in which ordinary citizens can use the mechanism of the courts to get government to act in accordance with the public interest. You see? So we also try to sensitize both professional bodies and ordinary citizens about this provision. It's very, very important. And the more those provisions are used in calling and holding government to account, I think the better outcomes we'll have in fiscal responsibility.
Now, very interesting from you, Barrister Charles. Now, let's now go to another angle of FRC, which I've read somewhere. I also heard maybe one time your chairman will talk about some of the little challenges they do have. What are those challenges per se in terms of carrying out your engagement in Nigeria? Okay.
When the commission started, it had a deliberate policy of engaging with MDAs, particularly those corporations that are listed to the schedule of the Act, which we call scheduled corporations, mostly the government-owned agencies. Today we have 68 of them, because that list has gone through some reviews. And what the Commission was doing then was to meet with those the heads of those agencies and try to inculcate a culture of fiscal discipline, a culture of fiscal responsibility, especially with regard to proper accountability and transparency in the management of public funds, rather than go the route of, arrest, incarceration, prosecution, and so on. That was something that was done for some time, up to 10 years, if you like, persuasion, if you like, trying to name and shame. But then the Act has already given the Commission the power to compel any person or institution to provide information regarding public revenue and expenditure. Because that information is at the root of the work of the Commission or any other body that is giving oversight. Now, the challenge we have had over time is that many of these corporations and some MDAs have not been forthcoming with providing timely and accurate information about their financial records, if you like, expenditure and revenue. And because our Act as it is now does not actually have provisions for punishment or infractions when either they delay or they refuse or they tamper with those documents, it became a challenge. But as we speak, the National Assembly is in the process of amending the Act, and hopefully sanctions will be introduced. But apart from that, we have had also the very serious issue of lack of funding. The Commission as it is now has less than 80 staff that are really focused on some of this work that we do. We are, like I told you, already oversighting in one way or the other more than 1,000 ministries, departments and agencies, because we also require them to send in their revenue their revenue profile and the data, and also especially those who pay operating surplus to make sure that they pay what they ought to pay to government and all that. So it's quite a huge responsibility. And as it is now, because of inadequate funding and even lack of human resources, if you like, not adequate resources that we have, it's affecting our work in one way or the other. But then, in spite of all those, we have found a way to collaborate with some sister agencies to help them also in the work that they do. Sometimes, when it comes to, for instance, how do you determine whether an agency has paid what they ought to pay as operating surplus, for instance? The Commission has come up with our standard operating surplus calculation template, which we share with all the MDAs. Through, of course, the Ministry of Finance. It's also circulated as a finance circular to all the MDAs so that they understand exactly. And when there is some kind of amendment or changes to the finance circular like we have right now, we also reflect it in the revision to the template. So that right now we have achieved to a large extent almost a seamless deduction method now, because some of those agencies that have been very reluctant in making their remittances as and when due, the government has a method now of taking what belongs to government from source. You understand? And that's why you've seen an improvement, a modest improvement in the independent revenue profile of our country right now. The amount of money that's been generated through independent revenue now has actually skyrocketed. Exactly. And the government revenue is better for it. But that doesn't mean there are no challenges in the system, particularly on the area of
now, talking about collaboration, because I already prepared to ask you, what is the reception like with collaboration with your sister agencies like DMO, Debt Management Office, even though there are a little bit of interlocking or interwoven, working between you and DMO, which I know you help us to shed light on. Then other agencies like Budget Office and the rest of them that are under the same purview of fiscal responsibility engagement in Nigeria.
See, we have stakeholders. This fiscal responsibility work cannot be completely done by only one agency.
Exactly.
We work with the Budget Office, like you mentioned, Debt Management Office, Office of Accountant General, the Ministry of Finance, and so on. So we all work together. And you see, it's always good to have a synergy in government. And that's why, like I mentioned, the issue of the operating surplus matter. This operating surplus, they don't pay it to our own coffers. They pay it to the the Office of the Accountant General. And now, any agency that pays any amount to the OAGF is supposed to notify us, or any deduction made by government from an agency's post. The commission is supposed to be in the know, particularly those who are in a list of scheduled corporations. You understand? And then they are supposed to also have their own receipts, official receipts for those the payments or deductions. And then when they now bring those information to us, and we look at their own audited statements, we analyze it and take out some of these deductions and the payments they have made. We now determine, based on the current government position, that is Section 22 of the Fiscal Responsibility Act, which was amended under Section 62 of the Finance Act 2020. 2020, before the 2021. Okay. Yes, but in 2020, that's when that Section 62 they gave a new, that 50% restriction of their expenditure. So when we apply these rules, we now determine if the particular agency is still owing government or otherwise. So now we're talking about collaboration. Because of the lack of sanction right now in our act, of course, the commission cannot directly prosecute, we cannot arrest, we cannot detain, and some of those instruments of compulsion. I told you Section 2 said you have power to compel. So what the commission has done is to try to enter into an MOU with agencies like the ICPC and even the EFCC, to the extent that if we are investigating an issue, a matter, and we discover that there is need for certain officials of the government to be detained for the purpose of concluding investigation or certain information to be gotten from them, we normally should call in the EFCC's assistant, because they have the facility, and we're working towards. And even EFCC, in some investigation that they are doing, when issues of non-remittance of operating surplus or certain diversion of budget money or releases of certain agencies arise, they call us to say, please, this agency, what is their status in relation to this and that? And we also assist them with the information that they require. So that is still ongoing. It is not to the level we would have loved it to be, because you can see, you understand how agencies in the country try to protect their turf. So we tell you their hands are already full doing their own work. They don't want to help other agencies too. But that notwithstanding, we are still, with the new heads of these agencies I've mentioned now, are very, very promising and cooperative.
Exactly. Now let's now step our discussion down to the real bulk of the issue at hand, the subnational government.
Subnational government.
Now, on the part of FRC, how has been their response to most of the activities that you people have been carrying out? Recently, there's a law now that will now permit local government to receive their money direct. And know you guys are playing a key role in this. So, you carried out an advocacy program recently, sensitization program for chairmen of local government, even including governors. Even your chairman was in a recent meeting of yesterday about tax reform. So how has it been the response to most of this advocacy you are doing towards prudency when local government begin to receive their money, how they are going to manage it? Okay,
now, let me make it clear from the beginning. The commission cannot compel any state or local government to have a fiscal responsibility law, as it were, now. Except on the issue of borrowing, where our act makes it very clear that they must obtain proof of compliance with all the provisions and conditions for borrowing as stipulated in parts 9 and 10 of the act. We can only assist them to, structure their public finance management system in accordance with the provisions of rule-based fiscal responsibility rules. Now, what happens is this. Government in itself, in helping the states, you remember there was bailout during the time of the former President Barr. Good. When that bailout was given to states to enable them to clear backlog of salaries and so many fiscal issues that they had, part of the conditions given at that time under the Fiscal Sustainability Plan, Fiscal Sustainability Plan, FSP, that the then Minister for Finance
Zainab Ahmed. Zainab Ahmed.
No, not her. The one before her that had to leave office. I remember
the
her
lady
name.
from
the lady. Yes. She was the one at the head of it at that time. In 2016, 2017, monies were given to many states. Over 32 or 35 states received one level of bailout or the other. Now, part of that FSP, Fiscal Sustainability Plan at that time, had 22 action points that the states were asked to go and implement to improve their public finance system. One of which was that they should have a fiscal responsibility council or commission in their states. Set up some special accounts where money for development should be warehoused and be more transparent. Publish their audited accounts, publish their budget. Some of all those things are contained in the action points at that time. And of course, they were to pay back that loan they were giving. We followed up with states at that time to make them, many of them didn't make the laws, but they got the money. Some actually passed the laws but never implemented it. They didn't even set up the commission to implement it. Some set up the commission but did not fund the commission and let them come at us. So we have varying degrees of action, in that regard. So we had the report. We publish annual reports in our commission detailing the states that have not passed the law, the states that have passed it but have not set up the commission, the states that have set up the commission but is not funded, no office, no vehicle, no nothing, and also the states that have functional fiscal responsibility commissions working in the state. So we have that data. Now, under STIFAS, recently, 2 years ago, there was this issue of helping the states also to ramp up their public finance system. And part of what they were supposed to do is also set up the commission, the Fiscal Responsibility Commission as well. It's quite disheartening that with all the advocacy, we have even tried to speak to we have invited the DG of the Governors Forum to attend some of these international programs we talked about. We have even tried to have audience and have a lot of advocacy that governors will see the need. The problem is many of the governors and even local government chairmen in elected councils, not those that are appointed. Those elected councils, they have this feeling that maybe it's just about another bureaucracy. They will not have thinking how to employ people and pay them. But that's not the issue. If there is no system in place for checks and balances to check whether there's excess and, if you like, irresponsible public spending, it will be difficult for value for money to be achieved in public finance management. The governors must understand the benefit of having a functional fiscal responsibility agencies in their state. It will help them. Many times when we carry out all manner of verification, under our powers in section 9 and 10, sometimes we undertake verification visits to some states to see whether they utilize their borrowing, the monies they borrow, for the purpose for which those monies were borrowed. You understand? They're supposed to have a cost-benefit analysis already produced. A lot of them don't do that. They don't do cost-benefit analysis. And we have seen situations where monies were borrowed to build roads, and yet the monies were used to pay salaries, which is completely out of the... And if a state fiscal responsibility commission is existing, they will guide the state government. This borrowing cannot be used for this purpose because it's against the law. That they do it this way. But sometimes, because of that gap, some senior government officials will take advantage of the lack of the existence of FRC at the state and do some of the things that they ought not to do. And so, but the Act has also provided for sanctions in a certain way, because if you borrow above your limit, above what is sustainable, then that state or local government can be stopped from borrowing. Now, what has happened now with this new autonomy we're given to the local government, or, well, improved autonomy, if you like, because I thought that they have already had autonomy. The commission is planning that this particular year, working with some other stakeholders, we're going to move our sensitization into those councils to encourage them to have a fiscal responsibility framework, pass a bylaw. Local governments can make bylaws themselves that will show that for every local government there must be a budget. In the past, local governments spend government money every month without any budget.
Exactly.
And so any expenditure outside budget should not be encouraged. As a matter of fact, there's a terminology I normally use. I say it is fiscal haram. For you to spend government money without a budget, and at the end of the year without an audited financial statement of how we spend government money. Interestingly, there was a time a few years ago, the EFCC organized sensitization for local governments, chairmen, vice chairmen, secretaries, and I think treasurers. They brought them zone by zone, geopolitical zone by geopolitical zone, to the EFCC Academy in Abuja here, and invited the FRC to also make a presentation, at those training sessions. And the first thing I normally asked them when I start at that time was, among more than 2,000 people gathered in the hall from different states. Any of the local government council that has published an audited financial statement in the last 5 years, not even last year or 2 years, in the last 5 years, you just raise their hand. You'll be shocked. Not less than 2 or 3 hands in the entire crowd. In other words, what has been the system or the norm, if you like, was that you just spent local government money year in, year on year, no account. Even if they go to Ministry of Local Government to put a one-page thing they call account, it's hidden in one shelf, never published anywhere, not in any website, not in any book. So those in those local governments for which the government is or the council is set up to serve do not know how much stewardship you have rendered. So part of it is to inculcate in the local government, this is the government closest to the people, that culture of accountability, of transparency, and of prudence, value for money. If you don't run, if you don't give contracts based on competitive bidding as required under the Public Procurement Act, in fact, even this Act, Section 38 says you must follow due process and procurement laws in giving a contracts to execute any budget. It's also in our law. So if it's not followed and local governments are allowed to continue spending, the man is your friend, your in-law to the chairman, they just give you money to go and do one project, no oversight, it will not help. So those are things we want the elected officials to begin to practice. I know in those days, I don't know about now, but I need to have supervisory councillors maybe for works.
They still do have them around, but at the end of the day, it is because of the political appointment. Now, Mr. Charles, as we begin to round up, because time is not always our friend. This kind of discussion, you know how deep and sensitive it is, and I can say that most of our viewers will be enjoying what I say, because this is the fact. I can remember some time ago when FRC will be on the media talking about how to ensure that subnational are strengthened. And what you have said about local government is not far from what the state governors are also doing when it comes to budget hearing. It's only at the national we normally hear budget hearing. At the state level, we hardly hear budget hearing. But going forward into this discussion to strengthen subnational government on terms of fiscal accountability and transparency, what would be your advice to the governors as well as to the local government? Because we have providing solutions from the angle of FRC as well as from the angle of someone who has been in this arena for a long time and understand what is really happening.
You see, the Constitution and our laws have actually put in some structures for checks and balances. I think the major challenge we have is that those checks and balances are not working as it were. Like I said, the Commission cannot impose anything on the state when it comes to expenditure and revenue. The governments in the states can decide how to raise their revenue and how to spend based on their own budget, leaving the issue of borrowing aside for now. Now, where the main problem is that the House of Assembly in the states, who should have oversight on government expenditure, they are the one that pass the budget, they're the one that's supposed to go around to see whether the budget is being implemented. If they are not carrying out their function properly, and if there is no state Fiscal Responsibility Council that can help them, because they cannot be everywhere at the same time.
Very well.
And also that state Fiscal Responsibility Council or Commission can also liaise with other CSOs, civil society groups in the states there to help in monitoring and evaluating how much of government budget implementation is happening, especially infrastructure level, the one that will capital budget execution, the one that will affect the generality of the masses. These are the things that we need to strengthen. Institutions must be strengthened to work, including organs of government. Because if we do not, it will be a matter of somebody, attaining a position either by election or appointment, and then believing that he's now the emperor. Public service cannot be allowed to run that way. There must be checks and balances. There must be people or other institutions that will say, you have not done it well this way, this time, reverse it. Or let us come and see what you have done. So what we can do is to continue to sensitize both the citizens and the other stakeholders at all the states. This is what you can do using the instrumentality of the law that you have passed. If the laws are not being passed, let the speaker, we have had occasions in our commission when we hosted a whole speaker and all the members from the
State House of
Assemblies. And we discuss, and they accept they are going to go back and pass these laws, and they go back and they don't pass the laws. So you can say that sometimes it's beyond what you can do.
Exactly.
The thing has to come from inside, the change. But it has to be when they see the benefits, the importance of having rule-based fiscal responsibility structures and framework, it will not be against the interests of whoever is the head there. It will help the system to run more efficiently and more effectively. One of the things that having good fiscal responsibility laws can do for any state or local government or federal government is to reduce the number of abandoned projects that we have. Why do you abandon projects? You started a project, you did your study, put down the cost of the project, did planning, provided for it in budget. How come you didn't release enough money to finish that project? Is it not better you didn't even start it at all than to leave it halfway? Then when after 3 or 4 years the project is supposed to be restarted, the cost overrun will be more than
triple the one that you started with.
So do you now say you have value for money?
No.
So that's part of the thing. If you must do 2 or 3 projects and finish it, is it not better than to start 20 to for other reasons and then end up having 20 abandoned projects littered everywhere? So these are part of the things that fiscal responsibility rules can bring in. You must plan properly, have like the medium-term framework, a 3-year rolling plan. The ones you couldn't finish this year, you roll it over to next year. You already know that you have these projects there. You don't start new ones indiscriminately. Somebody should set up and say, no, sir, this and this we have not finished. This is still going on. Why don't you postpone this project to next budget cycle? This is just common sense.
I know it's all about the politics of continuity or the politics we hate what the other person have done. We can't continue. It is his own project. In our own time, we'll do something else. But I won't let you go without asking you this question because very germane. In the media space, we have had opportunity to ask the review of the FRC Act 2007.
Yes.
How far is it? I want you to just respond to this in 1 minute because we don't have time. How far is the review work going? Because there was a time I watched a review that your chairman was at the National Assembly and he was hoping that this could help them in 2024, but here we are in 2025. How soon are we expecting a new act?
A checkered history. That process started in 2012. I think it was the 8th assembly. By the last assembly, we reached, we finished public hearing on 6th of July 2021 at the Senate. And we are hoping that the Senate will conclude that review before the end of that assembly. And unfortunately, it has lapsed. We didn't finish. So as we are speaking now, the review has started at the House of Reps. And it's been sponsored by no less a person than the Deputy Speaker of the House of Reps himself and other some of his colleagues. Right now, we have reached second reading. The bill has been read twice. But there have been some other bills that had also come up, and the Assembly, the House of Reps have said, let them be consolidated. And then we'll now go for public hearing. So we are hoping that this time around we'll have a better story, a better outcome.
I hope that, because I'm one of the people keen about FRC, so that we can have a better law and act that will guide your activities going forward in 2025 and beyond. This is the size of our show today. I've been hosting Barrister Charles from FRC here in Abuja, and he has spoken so well concerning what they are doing and what they hope to achieve in 2025 with subnational government. Enjoy the rest of your day.